Live from Broomfield, Colorado. Good morning. Thank you for joining us for NFE's third workshop. We're here today to talk about rental market and machines and general great practices for the rental industry. If you are here for Dave, we're sorry. He's currently camped out in Atlantic City waiting for some Bette Midler and Barry Manilow tickets. So instead today you've got myself. I'm Tom Griffin, the sales director for APAC Latin America. We also have John. I'll let John introduce himself.
How you doing? I'm John Venezial, and I've been with National Flooring Equipment now for about 3.5 years. I cover the Northeast, go from Maine to Maryland. Before that, I did 22 years in the construction rental equipment industry. From small mom and pop up to the top 3 rental companies in the country. So when I'm asked to go to National Flooring equipment place, rental houses that have our equipment, asked to go to do a demo day there or what have you. Typically, the number one thing I'm asked is, hey, can you help us out with prospecting? So I want to touch on that before Tom jumps into some of the equipment. We'll jump into some prospecting. Number one is I would be hitting Dodge reports. Dodge, if you don't subscribe to it. Just an example, in New York, Dodge reports, there are 5,195 leads there, anywhere from the first bids to the finished project. A little tip here, the bidders don't just go after the winners of these bidders, go after the losers of the bidders. See if you can help them win the next bid. See if you can help them save them time, money, energy, whatever you can. Where Dodge reports cover most government, public, and some private sector, there's a new company out now, Construct Connect. Try them for some of the more private contracts that are out there. Number 2, I would hit the Blue Book. The Blue Book is going to be like your Bible. That has phenomenal list of concrete polishing businesses, flooring businesses, sports floors, interior demo guys. Go after those lists. Try to hit 8 to 10 of those guys a day. Number 3, a little bit outside of the box for prospecting. I would go hit your mom and pop stores. I would go hit your Home Depots. I would hit your Lowe's. They have little windows and equipment that they don't offer. They don't have like ride-on scrapers. They don't have the helix that's a little bigger than their buffer that they're trying to grind with. These are all great places to go in. Leave your business card, ask for referrals, and start a referral program with them. Hey, if you send me a guy, I'll send you lunch. This works magic, I'm telling you, because it worked for, I'll give you a good example. I used to work in a mom and pop store. We had 10.5 acres of equipment, but we did not have shoring stuff. So a shoring rental salesman came in, he left his cards. He said, every shoring equipment guy you give me, send you lunch, send you pizza. We sent him 5 to 10 deals a month. He kept to his word. He sent us a lunch, so we had a lot of lunches. And he said if he had another rental house that did as much as we did, he could sit home. So little stuff like that, thinking outside the box, sometimes will get you tons of leads for this equipment. With that being said, I'm going to flip you back over to Tom Griffin.
Well, yeah, John, I was actually just going to ask, what's one of your favorite rental stories? Like, tell me something crazy that you've seen or heard of.
Yeah, so okay. So one of my favorite stories with, hey, let's dot our I's and cross our T's. Let's take photos of the equipment before it goes out, and let's run it in front of the customer before it goes out. A great story I had is a a couple years ago, rented a 3-inch trash pump to a New York City contractor. A couple hours later, he calls me up screaming and cursing at me. He used curses I've never heard before.
That's impressive for somebody from New York.
It is for a New York guy. Anyway, he's cursing. He has 5 guys, union guys, sitting there. Nobody's working. The pump don't work. I said, sir, please, I don't have a driver. Bring it right back. I'll meet you at Bay 2. I'll personally swap it out with the yard guy. I apologize. Drives back, takes the tailgate down, and the trash punch, which normally sits at about 2.5 feet high, it is about 4 inches high. And with a straight face, I was, what happened? He's like, oh, yeah, a concrete pump truck ran it over. And I was like, I'm not a mechanic here. I'm pretty sure that's the reason it's not working. Anyway, he had to pay for it, list price. So we had pictures of it. We had documents. So everything, just back yourself up. He had to pay for it in full, and then we gave him a rental one that he could use. But that's a good one.
So I like that. I think that's a good way to talk about the rental mindset. Like the mindset of not just the rental company, but also the people that are doing the renting. You know, for me, I think about why do people rent? And I think one of the big things for the big guys is that they don't want the responsibility, the maintenance, the liability of the machines on their books and all that stuff for financial reasons.
The
but
initial cost.
yeah,
Initial
yeah,
cost.
exactly. If they're not doing it all the time. But John, talk to me about what you think the rental customer's mindset is.
In all, right, like you said, hey, I don't feel like putting the initial cost out. Some of the initial cost is very high, and 2, right, it's not their piece of equipment, so sometimes they don't give a crap, they don't care. So please take photos of everything you can, run it in front of the customer. You know, make sure you do that. That's all documented and stuff, because unfortunately, you're renting a car, right? It ain't mine. I want to see how fast this goes. I want to see how fast I can beat this.
It's so true.
Yeah. So, back yourself up. Be careful when you're renting these out.
Well, and one of the things that I've heard before is sending machines out and people are like, yeah, they don't work. They come back and cords are literally disconnected. Like they've dug through the machines to try and fix it themselves. And all of a sudden now you've just got this pile of machine that doesn't work. And
yeah. Oh, it happens. 100% happens. So with cell phones nowadays is phenomenal, because I usually say, without having to run all the way out to these places, let me see what you're doing. Let me see what you're working on. Let me see what the machine looks like. Let's see if we can dolly in. And to all the rental people that hopefully join in or listen to this, we're your partner. Use us. If they have a national flooring piece of equipment, use us. I have tons of rental companies and salesmen out there that do use me. John, I can't get this glue off of terrazzo. What can we do? If I don't have the answers, I have guys that have 30 years of experience behind me and working with me. We'll get you the answer. So use us as a partner, please.
Oh yeah. And that was something when I was out in the field talking to rental companies, I always said, look, if you've got a piece of our equipment and your customer, your end user doesn't know how to use it, or they're not sure what the right tooling is or anything like that, you don't have to be the most knowledgeable person. You just have to know that the grinder is the right part for the job, and lean on us to take over the rest of it, to tell them what tooling they need. And I think being responsive too. So a lot of rental companies come in or rental customers come in a hurry because they need that piece of equipment. And National is able to ship parts and tooling for like our grinders and our scrapers. If they're in stock and we get the order in early enough, we ship them out same day. We can do overnight. We have that capability to make sure that we're there to support your customers where they need to be and where we need to be. So I like that, but I'm trying to think here. John, talk to me about the rental company's mindset. Why is a national piece of equipment, the quality, the whatever, what makes us great for rental companies?
Yeah, yeah. So I hate name names, but anytime I go into any of the big houses, and we're in every single one of the big houses, rental companies, we're in every one of them. When I walk through the door, I have my National Flooring Equipment shirt. I typically 90% of them get high fives. That is the best walk behind scraper we've ever had. We didn't have to work on it. I haven't worked on that scraper in 5 years, and it goes out almost every other day. Like, that is so good to hear. And you even hear on the ride on scrapers. There's guys that won't even use, rent, or send out any other company product if they have us, and they also carry another line. I have salesmen that refuse to send the other line out. They said, don't put that on my job site. I don't want it. I don't want the problems. Don't even put it. Just put the national piece, or don't put it out. Don't put it out at all. So that's great to hear. To be a rep on this end and have been on that end, that's awesome. That's awesome.
And you kind of touched on a little bit there, the quality of the build, so you don't have to work on our machines, but when you do, they're easy to work on.
Simple.
When we're talking about our shop blasters or our grinders, they're easy to repair in the field. We've got technicians that can walk you through field repairs. The phones are great with FaceTime to be able to fix machines that are down. But I think that goes back to the other part. We're made in America. We've got American steel. We're manufactured out of Minnesota. We've got support reps like John and myself and all over the country. Other companies just don't have that right now.
Here's one thing I always get, and this is, I love hearing this. Every time I pick up my phone, Monday through Sunday, whatever, I always pick it up or call them right back. As soon as I pick it up, they're always like, man, you always answer your phone. Like, I get that once a day. They're like, I call you because you always answer your phone. and everybody I have that backs me up, whether it be you, Tom, Dave, any other reps that are out there, regional sales rep, you guys pick it up just as fast as I do.
I was going to say, to my wife's annoyance, I definitely was camping one time and standing on the bumper of my car texting back and forth with a customer and an end user to sell a machine because I only had one bar of service, but I had to be like 8 feet up in the air to get it. I'm not a tall guy, so I had to climb up and find something to stand on. And so, yeah, even when we go camping, when I got PTO, we have a rule that I can look at my phone for a certain amount of time every day to put out fires and to answer customer questions.
15, 20 minutes past some fires.
Yep. But even when I'm on vacation, I could say, hey, call John or call whatever, and we're all here as a big part of a team to support you guys. And I think,
absolutely,
that's something cool that other companies really don't have out there. And for rental companies, they need support now. Their customer that's using the machine that's paying for it needs support now. So we definitely understand that and take that into account.
They don't need it tomorrow. They don't need it the next day. They're working on it right now.
Exactly. So who are our customers, John? We've talked about prospecting, we've talked about that, but who are these rental companies renting to?
Yeah. So I said it really quickly, but I'll touch on it. So interior demo is huge. That's somebody you want to be hitting every interior demo guy you possibly can. A big one lately is sports floors, stuff like that. You definitely want to hit your schools right now. You want to hit a little bit late to the dance on the colleges. All the college kids are out, right? So they're going to be working on all the sports, the gyms, the dorms, the classrooms. Mm-hmm. So I would still get in there to the colleges. I would still hit them. Never too late. And somebody could be struggling with a project right now. And right now, all your elementary, your middle schools, high schools are getting out now. So ideally, you should have been hitting these guys a month ago. But hey, never too late. Let's hit those two. So that right now, that's a huge thing. These schools letting out, go hit them. No doubt there's projects going on, again, in school classrooms, dorms, gyms, everything. I guarantee you, in your town, there's projects going on at schools.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say, I even remember talking to somebody at World of Concrete this year, and they were like the maintenance guy or something for a smaller school district, and he was asking questions about our machines and where he could rent them. I think it was in either northern Iowa or southern Minnesota, but it was that neck of the woods, and he had a couple of schools with some floors, and a sport floor and a hallway and classroom, something like that, and he wanted to know where to rent them because he didn't want to hire somebody else to do it, but he knew that our equipment was the right part for it. And so, obviously, I think we got his information and passed it along to a rental company that has our machines in that neck of the woods. So,
yeah, that's what I typically do. Say, hey, here, you can get it here, here, or here. These guys carry our product. Yeah, I mean, I would hit everybody, Tom. I would hit flooring distributors who even sell our stuff but don't rent it for your rental house. You could become that can be a great marriage. Hey, he wants to try it out this ride on before he buys it. Yeah, rent it from me. Yeah. So.
Well, and there's a great rental partner in the UK, and they advertise if you rent for a week and buy the machine from us, then we'll deduct that 1 week's rental cost from the price of the machine. And our rental companies, that's a great source of revenue too. I think maybe we don't, as reps, talk about it a lot, that the rental companies can also sell our equipment. So it's not just locked in that way. So if they get a customer that falls in love with the machine and wants to somewhere to buy it, they can feel confident too to make that sale.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not a normal avenue to do it, but that is something that we can support and make sure to have happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. We help any of the rental houses that want to sell. That's fine. Typically, I remember being in the rental house. I didn't really want to sell it a lot because I didn't want to lose that guy. I needed that rental income on my numbers.
Exactly.
Sales rental. So I bump heads a lot with the distributor who is selling it. But again, we're here. More absolutely, I can help you sell it if you want to sell it. Here's your numbers and stuff like that. So
well, and I was just thinking, for me as a business guy, if I know he's going to go somewhere else to buy it and I can get that revenue, then
absolutely.
I don't want to. If he's going to do it, if that customer is going to do it no matter what, then why shouldn't I get the revenue as opposed to somebody else?
Right.
That's me as a business guy. I don't know. But I also get it as a rental house. You want to continue to capture that stream of revenue coming in, because renting machines is what drives the business, right?
Yeah.
So, is there anything else you kind of want to cover under general rental stuff before we move on to machines, or?
No, we can probably hit into it as you're doing the machines. We could probably dive in.
All right. So I think we're going to start with grinders, and for everybody watching out there, I forgot to say this before. YouTube Live has the ability for you to chat in questions. So if you are watching live, please feel free to type in those questions. We've got a fantastic marketing team, Nick and Connie here with me. They're going to read those questions out to us. If you're watching and you've got your phone number for your rep, text them. They'll get us questions. We're here for you, so we really want to make sure that we're answering your questions. And if you're watching this in the future from a recording of this, give us a shout at our home office. We're here for you. Like we said before, we pick up our phones. So I think the next part of this is going to kind of be going over a really fantastic tool that our marketing department actually just updated this year. Spent a lot of time doing this, the rental in and out checklist for our machines. So specifically meant for some of our more rental friendly machines, but they apply to our bigger ones as well. And we're going to go through the different product categories that we have and talk about things to look at, different things when you're either sending the machine out or bringing it back in to check over, and if potential pitfalls and things like that in renting these pieces of equipment. So I've got some equipment here with me in Broomfield that I can actually go hands-on, and then I think John's going to help kind of talk us through some of this stuff too. So I think we'll start with grinders. So, yep, I'm going to walk over here to a grinder. I happen to have the in-out checklist for it. So this is our Helix grinder, and this one's a 16-inch passive planetary. Also does direct grind. So it's a really versatile machine for renting in and out. But John, what were some of the rental things you really wanted people to check on the way in and the way out for a grinder?
So checking on it, always flip it upside down. Check your bottom where it's hitting. Make sure nobody hit anything previously, or when it returns. That's probably that's one of the big things. If anybody hits any studs and what have you. Do check the buttons, the on off. There are little ones that they're not as heavy duty, so just be careful of those buttons. Nobody whacked them. One of the things that I love about the Helix that all the other small mom pops, your Home Depots, your Lowe's, are buffers, right? And they're just not that weight. The buffers I think they weigh 75 pounds, where this is closer to 200 pounds. So double the pressure down. So this is a nice step. That Helix is a great step above.
Well, I was going to say, you just brought up something too, the extra weight on this machine, making sure that they return the weights with it if they take them off.
Yes.
I mean, that's something that's silly, but then the next guy's going to take it out and be like, this machine doesn't weigh 200 pounds, and I'm not getting the grind that I want.
Right. Yep, definitely.
So, and on this one too, and you were touching on that, this has a nylon clutch plate right here. So checking for damage there, because if that's damaged, it's going to break on the next job site. It's going to go down. It's a easy part to switch out, to fix.
Yeah. As the rental house, I would keep a couple of them right on hand. I would keep a few of them on hand.
John, talk to me about how a rental house not goes after a customer. I don't want it to sound bad, but like, how do they recoup the cost of repair for machines? Is it easier to figure that out at the time of return versus
Absolutely.
having to do it later on?
Yeah, do not do it later on. Address it as soon as it comes in. And that's just something learned over years. Like, a couple of times, let the people just drop it off, didn't check it in, and you got to call them a few hours later or even the next day, and they're like, I didn't do it. Like, you got to put them, unfortunately, right on the spot. Check it as soon as it comes in, always. Just go over it with the customer. And, hey, something's broke. Hey, it happens. It's unfortunate. Sometimes they're covered under certain policies for X amount, and then some policies, they're not covered. They have to cover up to X amount. So they might be like, hey, yeah, you're covered, but not for the first $500 or whatever. So address it as soon as it comes back. Always address it as soon as it comes in.
So, yeah, making sure these heads are intact. We've got blanks in here to protect some of these slots where our diamonds go in, but making sure those don't get bent, making sure they freely rotate. More flex couplers. If somebody hits, something in the concrete or runs it off the lip of a dock or something like that, they could tear one of the more flex couplers. That's an easy thing to check on some of the bigger grinders to make sure, and even this guy, to make sure that those are intact. Cleanliness of the bottom. Obviously you expect to have dust and stuff, but what if they used your machine for a wet grind and then didn't bother to hose it off and just return it? Now you've got concrete on the bottom of your grinder. I just see that being a horror story right there. So just some of those things to look at the bottom. It's quick and easy. And as we talked about, looking at the weights, making sure that those are still there. And that goes with any grinder. Even our big grinders have removable weights. And when we're instructing people how to use them, we tell them not to use all of that weight. So obviously those weights are going to get taken off to make sure they get returned with the machine. Safety straps. There's a lot of little parts and pieces too that go into the machine that you don't want to have missing, but also if they are missing, you want to make sure that you get them back pretty quick. Water tanks on our bigger grinders. They have water tanks, so either making sure there's not debris and stuff inside them, that they're clean and ready to go for the next customer. All the adjustment parts, just making sure that somebody didn't, ram the machine into the wall and, break the ability to adjust it and to collapse it the way that it should be. What else are you thinking?
Real quick on just with hitting stuff and things like that. I would probably sell the diamonds rather than rent the diamonds underneath and mic them out. Like one company we used to do is we used to mic it out, and that's usually a fist fight at the end of the day. How much did it wear down? Didn't wear down. Somebody else mic'd it. I mic'd it going out. He mic'd it going in. We did it wrong. I would just sell them outright, the diamonds, instead of micing them. So little tip. And sometimes if diamonds came back and they were pretty decent, you can give the guy a couple bucks back and just resell them to the next guy. Say, hey, I'll give 50% off. I always made money with the diamonds as well, but I don't mic them. I wouldn't mic.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of work. I think selling them is definitely an easier way to do it, and that's not just because I want to sell more diamonds. Something I had a professor one time talk about, and his business was all about moving the dollar sign from their head to your head and making it easy. So don't get in the way of that. Like, don't don't obstruct your ability to have a good relationship with your customer. Anything else on grinders, John? Anything else you think people should check?
No, we don't have an 8274 there, Tom? No.
We do. I think we can get one over here real quick because that is a good machine, John, for rental companies, especially to compete with one of the more popular orange models that's out there. Let me move this guy out of the way.
Yeah. So the reason that I've sold a number of those 8274s to rental houses is they love I call it a dummy box, but it's it's actually the converter box that you can run that 110 outlet, regular outlet, and a 3 horsepower. You'll get a 3 horsepower grinder. But the dummy box they love because they get the phone call, hey, this grinder sucks, it doesn't work, it's not working. I'll say, hey, okay, look at the box. What do you see? You see 1 blink, 2 blinks, 3 blinks. It's going to tell you, hey, there's not enough power. Hey, there's too much power. Wrong power.
The handle's in the way.
The motor. So it was a great box. A lot of the rental guys were like, I love that. I don't have to go out and see what's going on. They could just tell me from the box. Yes, that was a closer right there.
And so John's talking, there's a little status light down here on the box. That's hard to see because the handle's in the way. Let me see if I can adjust this down pretty quick. I'm just going to break everything.
Yeah.
There we go.
If you just tilt a little, I think we might get it. I think we might be able to see it. Tilt it back.
Can you see that now? Now we're too far.
Yeah.
There we go. Right there. So you get the status light, and even right here, it tells you what the different status indicators mean. So you can walk the customer through that. John, did you touch on the 15 or 20 amp circuit here on the side?
No. Thank you.
So, here in Colorado, a lot of the new builds have 20 amp circuits, but older parts of the country, Massachusetts have 15 amp circuits. So in making this machine a little bit more user friendly, there's actually a switch here on the side that you can choose either 15 amps or 20 amp draw. So the machine will never pull more than 15 amps in that mode. So if you're going to a job site, the customer doesn't know what power is available or what their amperage circuits are, especially for homes. That's a really easy way to not have to find out where the circuit breaker is. But then also this machine has a soft start. So it slowly ramps up the speed of the motor so that it's also not going to trip circuits as well. So this machine is great for rental because we've already removed a lot of the issues that could potentially happen.
Very rental friendly. Probably the biggest grinder you can get that's rental friendly.
Adjustable weights. This one, so the Helix is a really good prep machine, but this one can prep and polish. So, just adding some extra revenue streams in there with the same machine, so you're not having to have one machine to polish and one machine to prep. You've got one, especially for a smaller mom and pop shop, one machine that can do both and do both very well. So I'm all right with that for grinders. What are you thinking, John? Should we move on to shop blasters?
Yeah, sure.
So I love our shop blasters but I also think some rental houses are a little more scared of them because of the maintenance that's required, the knowledge for the user that's required. Do you want to touch on that, John? Did you rent blasters? Did you stay away from them? What's your...
We stayed far away from them. Almost everybody does, because they're just a big nightmare. But that A95 is a great. It's I can even run it. I never ran a shot blaster in my entire. I didn't know what shot blasting was before I even came here. I mean, I know a little bit, but I can run that A95. They showed me what to do in 15, 20 minutes. It was no problem. Even knew how to troubleshoot it. Some troubleshooting. If the shot dropped, check how the stuff get hung up. Yeah, it's a nice little easy machine. You don't have to, right? It engages the shot and the wheel at the same time, right? So you don't have to do two different things at once. It's really nice and user friendly.
So I think some of the stuff too on here that we've adjusted to make it a little more user friendly. John, you were talking about our older style one that had the clamp style handle that would engage the motor and then turn on allow the flow. But the new model actually is more like our larger machines, like our A96 and A97, where you can actually turn the blast wheel on and then use this valve on the front to actually open and control the flow. So that was one of the upgrades that we made to kind of make this a little, not that it wasn't professional before, but more of a professional industrial style shot blaster as opposed to just that basic entry level machine. You've got an hour meter here on the front. So for rental, shot blasters have parts that have to be replaced every so often. So if a customer says, no, I only ran it for, 20 hours or whatever, and that part failed, well, then, either something was wrong with the machine or they were misusing it. But if they say that and it comes back and the hour meter says obviously 80 and you rented it at 10, then they used it a lot more than they thought they did. And something that we're talking about on shot blasters, not to scare you, but this is a liner from inside, and this is supposed to be a sacrificial part so that the rest of the machine stays intact. And this was somebody who overused the machine and didn't replace the liner and then actually probably welded it back so that they could finish the job. So, the hour meter there is great to make sure that wear parts and wear components like that get switched out as often as they should. Machine maintenance is pretty easy on this, John. What do you think?
Yeah, the maintenance is pretty easy. Where that's a home run, is like garage floors. You just want to prep it, and where that beats the grinding is money, right? Cost. Diamonds are triple the price of a bag of shot. So that's where we're going to save the people with the shot blasting. And once I learned, hey, it wasn't a nightmare. It's pretty easy. It's pretty simple. And my problem was dropping shot. I thought was the biggest, problem in the world. It's not. You just pick it up with a magnet, put it back in, see what happens, see what went wrong, and move on. So it became pretty easy. And once I learned how inexpensive it was, this is now really the tool to prep with. Like, it's faster and cheaper.
Yep. Well, and two, we're here to train people. We've got videos on our YouTube channel that you can check out. We do in-person trainings. When we're in your neck of the woods, if you want training on these machines for your team, we can come do those in person, walk everybody through it so that you're comfortable renting our equipment and renting something that's not a piece of equipment that every rental house has. I think pretty much just kind of the big guys and their flooring divisions have blasters that they run out. So a way to capture some revenue and differentiate yourself in the market. Yeah, I think we could do that. 3, 2, 1. So talking about kind of that in-out checklist too for a shop blaster, parts to make sure that they're intact and ready to go. Some of the obvious things, obviously down here, you've got these brushes that are meant to help, contain the shot also, but to kind of push debris out of the way, making sure that those are intact, not bent. you can actually tilt the machine back. It's not going to show well on camera, so I don't want to do it. But tilting the machine back when it's unplugged and looking up into this specific compartment right here, it'll allow you to see the blast wheel, to see what shape it's in, and also the liners to make sure that they don't need to get switched out. I don't think I have a bad blast wheel, but when you're bringing it back in, looking at this is like a brand new blast wheel. So there's no marks on here. All of the steel's intact all the way across. There's no channels or grooves or anything like that. But then as it gets used, the shot's going to start flowing across it, and it's going to start digging some lines and making some marks. And you want to make sure that before that shot wears all the way through this blast wheel that you're replacing it. So knowing how to look at that and being able to see it from below, it's really easy to check, but that's a really important part. And this typically gets replaced about every 40 hours. So that's where that hour meter comes in. So if somebody's going to be renting it for 3 weeks and you're approaching that mark, then you probably need to do some preventative maintenance for them. On this machine, making sure that this bolt is still here. That controls how wide open or not your shot valve will be. Making sure that these little clamps right here are intact and able to keep your dust separator in place. It's just part of how this machine works, so making sure that that's intact. Looking at the state of your wheels, making sure that those are in good shape, not damaged. And these wheels are designed to take a beating and to be really productive, but if they're beat up, you're probably going to need to replace those. The shot cable, making sure that it hasn't gotten ripped off or caught on something, and our engineering team's done a really good job securing it and running it very close to the machine. But every once in a while, a guy's not paying attention and they're going down a wall and they're going to catch the machine on something protruding from the wall, and you have that potential to do some damage to this cord, and the machine doesn't work without it. So it's a really important thing to check. Yep. Actually, so our marketing team just reminded me of a really important thing. So these rear wheels are actually height adjustable. So this machine needs to sit about 1/4 inch off the ground underneath these brushes. And a lot of guys, when they're loading and unloading this machine, will slam this back end down, and it can actually move the wheels. So like on here, we actually drew with a Sharpie a line that shows where that proper alignment is for these wheels. So making sure that these are adjusted correctly, because if they're not, either the machine will not get enough airflow through it or too much airflow and cause you to drop shot. So some of that little easy preventative maintenance, just having that visual mark there, will help you from having to troubleshoot with customers in the field later on. That's a good idea, and I actually have one right here. So talking about maintenance.
Do you want to put this down?
Yeah. So we try to make things a little bit easier for our customers. And one of the ways that we have learned over time to do that, especially with shop blasters, is that we sell these maintenance kits. They come in a nice toolbox. They're very well packaged. You actually have all the tools you need to do the job included. Screwdrivers and hammers and wrenches. But down here underneath, we include that shot valve cable. You have an extra set of liners so that if the machine comes back on the job and you've got a quick turn to get it back out on rent, and you notice one of these needs to be replaced, you've got those already there, and then you can just order individual ones to replace what you fix. Talking about those brushes, we include a full set of the brushes to go with the machine, so you can replace them again as needed. And then the first blast wheel, it's like we were talking about every 40 hours, so you've got one on your shelf ready to go. So that's included. And then we also have part numbers up here. So, your guy who's doing the maintenance can, go to your purchaser and just say, hey, I need one of these, and you've got the part number here. And we even have part numbers for things that aren't included in the kit that they might find that they need eventually. So this is really designed to help our customers out, and especially our rental partners, to be able to do the right maintenance on their machine. John, do you know of any other rental machine provider, that does that for their partners?
No, I don't offhand. No.
So that's a really cool thing, and we do that for our blasters. I don't think we do that for any of our other product lines, but definitely for something where some of those wear parts that are integral to this machine working, having them all there and ready to go in one nice complete kit, I think it's really, really handy. I think your maintenance guy would love you for that, actually. So, John, you want to talk about dust collectors? What are some of the things you used to see if you rented dust collectors? Do you have any fun stories about that?
Fun dust collector stories. No, I mean, when you're out on the job site, you see everything, right? You see them take an old shop vac, and if God forbid OSHA come in, my area, I get it. Some of the Midwest people can probably get away. They're never going to see OSHA in their life, but where I'm at, New York City, Philadelphia, New Jersey, the pharmaceutical places, the IT places. If you're going to be working any of these environments, you have to have, the shop vacs that are getting 99.99 out of the air, cleaning up the ambient air. You cannot throw particles into the air anywhere near any of these places, and even government and schools. So dust vacs have become a big part in the Northeast. They're on us. They're on it. You can be fined dearly.
I was just thinking about a rental house down in Texas, and they rented the dust collector out. They knew that it worked just fine. And the customer called and said it doesn't work. And it had rained the night before. And so the customer used the wand to suck up the moisture for the area that they were about to start prepping. Yeah, and so I think that's an important distinction to make, is that these are dust collectors, not shop vacs. And so the rental company called me and said, the machine's not working. It worked when we sent it out. And I'm like, kind of talking through them. And I'm like, what were they vacuuming? What were they doing? And then it turns out they had taken the water in and made just a nice big brick of concrete in that filter.
It'll make it. Yeah.
So yeah, these are great machines, but they are not shop vacs. They're not wet dry vacs. You can suck up anything dry that you want, but definitely nothing wet.
Yep. Lesson learned.
And like you were pointing out, John, a lot of guys are going to say, why do I have to rent this out? The grinder works just fine without it. But you have to have airborne dust control. It's required by law, by OSHA.
Even if OSHA's not there, man, you do not want that in your lungs. Even the littlest of particles, they're now saying can get in the lungs and just stay there. Just like you just said, wet vac, right? Mm-hmm. And you're just soaking it in, and now you're making it moist in your body. That ain't good. It's a brick in your body. So yeah. It's bad stuff. So even if OSHA's not on you, up you, use the vacs. Use the vac.
Well, and too, as I'm thinking as a rental company, you want to limit any liability for that customer to come back at you and say, well, they didn't tell me that I needed this. So,
yeah, absolutely.
It's easier just to run them as a package. Rent the grinder, rent the dust collector.
Yep. Pair it up. Yep. Even make it a one price sometimes. It's even easier.
I like that. So some things on this machine, they're pretty simple, but things to check before you rent them out, before you bring them back in. Make sure the switches are functional. On here, we actually have a filter clog indicator. And so if you plug it back in and you can't get that cleared out, then you might want to have to change that. Making sure that on our DL2000 that this gate isn't broken, because that allows you to purge the filter. Checking the flaps, checking the handles, making sure that the dust collector raises and lowers into position and that, those knobs are intact. Longo packs, I know that that's a consumable. John, would you have included the Longo pack in the rental, or would you have charged customers for that?
No, probably include that. I would include that. They're not going to go through that much of it unless the guy does wipe it out on you. You know what I mean? And it went out pretty big. Then I would charge him. But yeah, I'd probably.
Well, and so making sure that there's enough for the job that they're going to be doing. Making sure that the power cords are intact, that they're not damaged. Looking at the wheels, making sure the casters, that it moves smoothly and easily. They're not complex machines, but you could also, filters aren't really easy to check, but I think plugging it in and seeing what the airflow is will definitely tell you whether or not those filters are in good shape. What do you think?
Yeah, and also I have that when I'm renting that one. I always want to mention how to purge that. How to click that while it's running. You show them where the hit that flap, and it'll almost like purge it. Yeah, exactly. While it's running, you want to keep hitting that flap. You're going to shake that out since it doesn't have a purge on it. So yeah, definitely show the customer that. Walk them through that.
Yep. I like that. Turning the motors on, making sure both of them are still working. They didn't plug it into the wrong power source, which this is a 110-volt unit, but some of our bigger ones are 230. So, making sure they didn't fry the motors by plugging it into a 480 power source. So
plug it back in. Yep.
Do you want to talk about confirming the voltage that you're plugging it into, especially in the bigger dust collectors with compressors?
Yeah. So the marketing team just brought up a really good point. So this guy's a little bit smaller, but on our bigger ones, like our DL3000, our DL4000, and then their auto purging versions of those, the 4000P and the 3000P, as someone who's renting, making sure that they have the right power source on the job site. And then also for the auto purging ones, it needs to be 230 volt, not 208. So definitely making sure on the way out to do that qualification to make sure that they can actually use that machine on the job site, and not thinking that, oh yeah, no, I can get that DL3000 out there. They get out and it's a residential garage and they've got 110. So that's a really important thing, especially on the way out, to check. And with any equipment, really. I mean, you don't want to rent a 230 volt grinder to somebody who's only got 110 volt power. So, John, you got anything else on dust collectors? Anything you can think of that you've seen before?
No real, like I said, no real horror stories. Just the horror stories when I go out on the job sites and I see someone who didn't rent it and they just have it hooked up to a vac.
Oh yeah.
Shop. Yeah.
Or not doing that and just the cloud of dust that's around them.
Yeah. When you go and you just see, and you're like, okay, there's no vac here being run. So yeah, you know that immediately that there's no vac being run when you can't see the guy at the other end of the job site.
If your job site looks like Pigpen is running around, the cloud of dust following him, just run the other way. So I think to finish it up today, we're going to briefly touch on our walk-behind scrapers, which I think is one of the bigger categories that we're known in the rental industry for. So I know in the future, we're going to be doing one of these workshops specifically geared towards renting and supporting our ride-on and walk-behind scrapers. But we definitely want to make sure that we talk about this one today, because it kind of fits in with this other smaller equipment that we've talked about. John, did you rent these walk-behinds?
So at my mom and pop one, we did not. So that was even a better lesson learned. We used to have it was called a Palmer stripper, and also Edco put out some. They're the very popular ones. They're very inexpensive, cheap, super loud. You actually have to you cannot run them without hearing it. You have to have muffs. You have to have it will wipe you out. So I learned the hard way of what not to do. And then when they ran the National Flooring Equipment floor scrapers for me the first time, I was like, is that on? Is that running? Are you doing that? So that is a big plus to our walk behinds versus any of the competitions that I used to have. And also the way that they hit, they're just trying to ram it where we oscillate it more. So altogether, it's a different scraper that we offer than what I used to have or was used to, and it's night and day. And if you have ours, you know.
Well, I was gonna say, I think one of the first customer visits I did when I joined National was I went to a rental house up in Wisconsin, and they had a really old version of the Gladiator. It was blue with the gold handle, like just super old. And I asked the guy, I said, "Can you tell me how, like, has this machine paid for itself? How long did that take?" So he opened up his system and looked, and he had bought the unit, I think it was like 8 years before, and it had paid for itself 4 times over.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love seeing that.
And his maintenance was nothing.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Every guy says maintenance. I haven't done anything with it in 5 years. Nothing. I send it out. That's what I do. And then when it comes back in, I mean, that's awesome. And what you just said, I used to love to do. I used to just love to see how much that unit made already. You know, and some of the numbers are amazing. Like you said, paid for 4 times over and some. I've seen stuff. So yeah, well worth it. Return on investment is unbelievable with these scrapers.
Oh yeah, and you know, across all of our machines it's the same way, but the scrapers, it's just the amount of return that you get. You think it's a laughing joke, but it's really not. And so if you're a mom and pop that doesn't have these or the ride-on scrapers, and you're not serving that market, and you're looking to grow, this could be a really good way to increase that ROI with just, you know, minimal investment.
Absolutely.
So we make a bunch of different versions of these walk behinds, but you know, I think the things to check on them are all pretty much the same. John, do you kind of want to walk over this, or do you want me to? What are the things you would check?
Things to check? Well, that's a Sherman tank, so you really don't have to check a tank. I mean, you're there with it. Things that just the front housing, right? Because that's what's hitting. So just make sure that's not messed up. Most of the time, it really isn't see if the wheels have glue on them or all caked up. But most of the time, it really isn't the scraper. It's the tooling, right? How bad the tooling is when it came back. Whether they chipped the chisel or the shank, check those out really good as much as the equipment. If you're re-renting the shank and you didn't sell it outright, yeah, just check stuff like that in case somebody broke the carbide on you, killed the blades. So yeah, that's, you know, being a Sherman tank, you're mostly going to be looking at the blades and the shanks.
I think one thing that I definitely know are these locking pins for the wheels, and I don't know if you can even really see it from where I was, but these locking pins, these lock the wheels to the axle so that the drive mechanisms can actually engage the wheels. And if you're missing these, obviously you take them off to be able to move the machine, freewheel it around the job site, but you have to have them to be able to have the machine do the work. So making sure that you got extra of those on hand, but also that the customer brings them back at the end of the job and doesn't just lose them or chuck them somewhere in their trailer. On this guy, I also like to check the handles here because these are adjustable. So if somebody were to have said, you know, bash it into a wall like someone did with our demo unit here, you know, it doesn't really lock in place anymore. So I think that's something to check. And in over 4 years at National, this is the first time I've ever seen one of these break. So it kind of makes me wonder what somebody did to it. But that's kind of that rental mindset. We loaned it to somebody and it wasn't theirs, and it happens. I liked what you said, John, about the glue, because the tires actually have, you know, tire scrapers down here, but if they're caked in glue or something, then, you know, if somebody's taking that to a job site where they don't want that, they're removing something else, like ceramics, then you've just glued tile to the machine. Yep. Good. So also looking, if you rented this to somebody who's removing commercial carpet, like making sure that the axles are clear of debris, that there's no carpet threads wrapped around them, because that'll definitely stop the machine from working. Some of our smaller machines have removable weights, so making sure that the weights that went out with it are also coming back to it. Yep. So on this particular machine, we have different heads that can go on here called angle attachments. So making sure that, one, you rented the right angle for the job that they're doing in the first place, but that if you sent all of them out, that those come back and are in good shape.
Yeah, Tom, that's a good point. That's a real good point. That just happened to me this week. The other guy didn't know the 9-degree angle one didn't come back, and he had to get the part number for it. And he's like, I don't know why we send it out with 2. So good point on those heads when you send those 2 heads out, if you're going to send them both out. You might even want to ask, hey, what are you taking up? And if he's saying, tile and stuff like that, just give him that low one. Give him that low 9-degree one. Don't send the other one out. I don't know, play it out, see what works best for you, because that's now the second, third time I heard that it didn't come back. The other head didn't come back with it.
Well, and too, if you don't know, if you're renting this machine out and you're not entirely sure what to send out or call us. We're going to tell you the exact parts you need. We're going to tell you the best tooling to send out for that job. And especially if somebody's pre-planning for it, then you can order that to get the parts in for them and make sure that you've got everything to support your customer.
Yeah, exactly. Again, use us. We're your partner. Please use us. We'll dial you in. That's easy question for us to answer on which blades, which shanks, which carbide, non-carbide, wood do you want to use. We're here. We'll help you out. That's what we do all day.
So, I don't think anyone's chatted in any questions yet, but I think we're coming up kind of towards the end of the hour here for today. But John, do you have any words of wisdom on our way out? Anything that you can think of?
Words of wisdom. I do. We're your partner. That's it. I mean, physically use us as your partner and you will succeed. I'm telling you, I have flooring guys, and can't name the right top 4 in the country, big houses. Everybody knows their name around the houses. And they're using us. They'll bounce stuff off me all the time. Should I do this? Shouldn't I do this? Use us as your partner. Use National Floor as your partner.
I like that. And for me, it's great to stand behind these machines that are built with insane quality, made here in America, with American steel, the best support in the industry, the best service in the industry. And we're here to help you guys. We want our rental partners to make money. And we want them to understand the return on that investment, and then to come back and expand the offerings of National that they have. And that's one quick thing to actually talk about. We've got a tool in-house. If you're a rental company and you've got questions on the return on investment, we've got some worksheets that we can put together and customize them for you with your rental rates and maintenance that should be expected from knowledge of years of selling these to rental houses. And we can our sales guys can put together that proposal for you, so you can kind of understand what you're getting into if you're opening up a new category. But we really just appreciate your time today. Always feel free to call us, reach out to us. We're here to help you. And if you ever need anything, phone call, email, go to our website. We're here for you. Thanks for joining us today. Thank you, John. Appreciate your time, and we will see you next time at the next NFE Workshop.